Hello, all, and welcome to your very own Tech and More. In this session, we are going to deep dive into the world of business analysis. So, today we have a special guest, and she has been here earlier as well. We have Kiran Chawda with us. She is a seasoned business analyst and has an amazing experience, and she is good at crafting exceptional user stories that drive successful projects. Now, you could be a budding business analyst, a developer, a quality analyst, a product owner. You have surely heard this phrase that says a great user story is the foundation of a great product. Okay, we do hear all these things, but what actually makes a user story great? So we are going to learn that today. What all pointers or what all best practices you should follow, everything will be included. So today we're going to break down real world example, follow those best practices. But before I pass on this particular session to Kiran, I would just tell you one more thing. So we are coming up with a boot camp on business analysis very soon. And if you're a beginner in business analysis, this could be a very good place or a tutorial for you, wherein we start from the scratch and take you up to the advanced level. So stay tuned for that particular bootcamp that we are coming up with. So I'll stop speaking now. I pass on this particular podium to you, Kiran. Let's get started.
Thank you so much, and thanks for such a great introduction again. Uh, you used one phrase which said a good user story is the foundation of a great product, right?
Correct.
Uh, I am known for being very plain and simple with my words. Of course, it's a good user story, but learning it from experience, you will not get it at the first hand. Definitely. It takes a lot of experience for you to get to that stage. And
Yeah,
it also, even if you are at that stage, one user story goes through a lot of iterations.
correct.
But it is always better to start that iteration from 70% of readiness to 100% of
Mm,
readiness rather than from 0% to let's say
correct.
100% because that's going to take a lot of time and efforts from everyone involved, right? So with that part, I'm going to start this particular discussion that we have.
Yeah,
Please understand nobody's going to be very perfect at it from the very start,
yeah,
but it's good that we all are starting with this discussion at least. So
true.
uh, let's start with what makes a user story great.
Hmm.
Before we start, I know everybody who is coming, or I'm expecting everybody who is coming, is at least aware of the basics that we have on the user story, the formatting when we write it in a form of as a user, this is what I have to do so that I can
Hmm.
achieve this.
Hmm.
These three blocks of a user story actually tells you the purpose of the user story for you as well to define it, as
Okay.
in where are you starting, from what point you are starting, and what is the objective of your particular user story in a way. And objective is what matters. When you have
Hmm.
the objective in head, you'll be able to you'll be able to define it furthermore. And with that objective, when you're going to write the user story, the one thing that is very important for us is basically following the invest criteria.
Hmm.
Uh, when we write a story, we will not understand or we will not be able to remember the terminology as such. But if we kind of understand the importance of every bits and piece here,
Hmm.
somewhere when you're drafting your user story, you'll be able to remember those points.
Okay.
So if you look at this, very small terms like independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable.
Hmm.
This is something that you definitely find. I'll kind of relate it from an experience perspective to these particular points. When we say independent, your project development, your implementation phase is spread across different timelines, right?
Hmm.
If you write a user story which is dependent on a lot of other things,
Hmm.
uh, it is not easy for somebody to pick it up for development or testing. So it is always recommended that you do independent pieces that whenever in the present, if somebody is looking at it, they understand the objective.
Hmm.
If in the future as well, somebody has to come and refer to your user story, it's very easy to understand for them, uh, or relate to what is being asked or what is being put up as part of this user story.
Okay.
The next we have is negotiable. So now negotiable starts from negotiable actually links to what I started this discussion with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your story goes for multiple iteration. The first iteration is your functional level understanding from the
Mm-hmm.
clients, that whether their expectation meets with what you have written or not. And most of the time, it would not.
Mm.
You would
Correct.
have you would have a very new factor come in when you're discussing the this user story, which
Mm-hmm.
was not part of it earlier, right? So at that point of time, you should be able to incorporate those changes
Okay.
into the user story. That's the first level of being negotiable part of user story comes into
Mm-hmm.
it. The second part is the development phase when the developers fix it up.
Mm.
They would point a lot of technical limitations.
Yeah.
They would point a lot of
Happens.
points where things will not be aligned because
Mm.
your their product limitations. There
Yeah.
is object limitations. There's a lot of other limitations that they will come up with.
Mm-hmm.
The third level of it is quality testing, right? At that
Yeah.
point of time, you would understand and you would kind of find out that okay, I missed on validation rules. I
Mm.
missed on modals where you can have a confirmatory message. Maybe because of formatting, the language did not go through well, right? That's a third level.
Yeah.
Then there's another level called UAT, wherein your story would be
Mm-hmm.
questioned again if
Correct.
everything has been included or not. So that
Mm-hmm.
negotiable part comes into place that you do include a lot of details at the start, but
Mm.
if there are changes or there are updates, it should be ready for updates as well.
Correct.
Mm. The third part is valuable. Now, this is where I mostly have a most of challenge, like when I do any project, and this is for everybody else as well. I assume because it's a competition between uh, having clients understand the functional side of your user story because
Mm.
for them business value is what matters,
Mm.
what is that user story going to achieve. But when it comes to development,
Yeah.
they would be like, this thing is not included.
Mm.
Maybe you've not put up character limit of 255. Maybe you've not put up validation rules.
Mm.
Maybe you've not put up object limitations. For the development team, this is a very high important
Correct.
feature or things that you have to inculcate. But for the functional people, it is not of a relevant structure as
Mm.
such. So at that point, it becomes a lot of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it in a way, if you make your user story in a way that it is covering both the functional and the development aspect of it, very good to go.
Mm.
Estimable is basically when you get it through development and testing. It's of a very bite-sized chunk so that it can be developed and tested effectively.
Okay.
Small because our projects have become very fast-paced.
Mm.
We are in a world where the developments are finished in few months and go live is also done in few months. So you
Yeah.
have to ensure that if you're doing some pieces, it's not of a big volume so that it takes a lot of time.
Mm.
Put it into small pieces so that different people can work on different part
Correct.
of it and you will be able to relate to the timeline that you've committed.
Correct.
Testable is on the quality testing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have focused a lot of time here, but this is important from the experiential perspective of user stories, of
True.
writing a good user story.
Yeah.
With that, I'll move to the next one. And
Mm-hmm.
to this, I kind of hinted at the very start as well. Your user story should always have your objective defined. So if you
Okay.
look at the example that we have here, uh, you do have a persona who is going to perform an action, which is as a sales manager, I want to generate a sales report. So generating a sales report is the action here. And
Mm-hmm.
the objective is that they track performance and forecast revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Your story should be able to perform both of the things. It should be able to do that action
Mm.
and it shouldn't just stop with that action. It should also be able to cover that objective with that
Correct.
action. Is it possible for you to track the team performance or not? How is it possible? What
Mm.
are you going to use for that? Right? So this is something, if we follow that objective perspective in head and covering the part of it in acceptance criteria, that would that would definitely make a lot of difference to how you write user story.
Okay.
Always have the objective, always have the benefit or value that it is creating in your head.
Okay. Okay.
Acceptance criteria is where you define that objective or
Mm-hmm.
where you define a lot of things about uh, this particular line.
Mm-hmm.
This is a description that you have as a sales manager. But when it comes to acceptance criteria, you would have to give that particular details of how they're going to track. So, for an example, if you say generate a sales report for the last quarter, what should be included as part of the sales report?
Mm-hmm.
What are the different matrix? What
Mm-hmm.
is the formulas that you would want? What
Mm-hmm.
are the different fields that you would want to have? So your acceptance criteria should have clear and precise values and clear and precise description of what is needed.
Okay.
Aligns with business value and usefulness is what I said in the last phase here, that
Mm-hmm.
the objective should be met, right? It
Correct.
shouldn't be that, okay, you have created a report, but you're not able to perform
Mm.
to track team performance, which means your report does not have an individual parameter or a
Mm-hmm.
team parameter in it, right? Small and feasible within a sprint,
Mm-hmm.
prioritized and collaborative. Prioritized, which is if you're writing small chunks of user story, they're
Mm-hmm.
spread across in a very broad spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, in the broad spectrum, you'd have to tell people, okay, this is what you pick first, this is what you pick second, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what you pick the last, right? So this is always important for you to prioritize that. Okay, I have written 10 to 15 different user stories.
Correct.
Now, out of this one is P1, this one is P2,
Mm-hmm.
this one is P3, so that nobody picks a P12 and tell you, oh,
Mm.
can you explain me this? I don't understand.
True.
And if
True.
something like that happens, you just go ahead and tell them, oh, you're picking the wrong one. Pick the
Yeah.
P1. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you pick it in line, the flow itself will be explainable to you yourself
Correct.
rather than
Correct.
you coming to us. Right? Written in simple and non-technical language. This is a very debatable format. Written in simple, definitely simple language helps everyone. Non-technical language, but it should also have, from my perspective, it should have a little bit of technical aspect as well
Okay. Okay.
for us to relate. And this is a personal opinion of
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and this is something that is defined by the team structure of how the
Okay.
team is wanting the user story to be.
Okay.
With that, I I have a real time example for everyone to follow.
Okay.
Uh, let's all right. So if you look at this particular screen, we
Mm-hmm.
have this one user story where the story name is that you have to trigger a validation when total billable hours are more than total hours.
Mm-hmm.
This is coming from one business use case, and this is part of that particular one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the particular feature as such. The story, if you read from here, is wanting that as an employee, you I should not be able to submit total billable hours more than the total hours to maintain data cleanliness. Now,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you build a system, there's a lot of different things that you have to consider in place, and data cleanliness is definitely one part of it.
Okay.
If you have a lot of bad data, it impacts your performance. So
Mm-hmm.
every time you make a system or every time you define a software, it is better to consider those aspects there. If
Okay.
you look at
Okay.
this is one of the user stories where we are defining the system to have that perspective data cleanliness in a way. Now, if you look at this, the story also have a problem statement,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what helps a lot to everyone.
Okay.
Mostly, this is also referred to as business use case.
Mm-hmm.
So the use case is currently when users enter billable hours more than the total hours. Uh, so currently, users can actually enter the billable hours more than total hours,
Mm-hmm.
which disrupts the data into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And this should not be happening in order to maintain the data cleanliness. So what should the system perform in that way? The acceptance criteria of this can go as I should be able to access the timesheet because that's where the validation is going
Correct.
to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two fields, total billable hours and total hours. If the total billable hours are greater than total hours, a validation rule should be triggered with the error messages,
Yeah.
total billable hours cannot be greater than total hours at the bottom of the page. The
Mm-hmm.
field's total billable hours and total hours should only accept numerical values.
Correct.
And because we're not wanting anything greater than 4, we're also defining the system to only accept the input from the range of 1 to 40. The field's total billable hours should be present in the details section
Mm-hmm.
and should have the relevant description. Now, if you look at the acceptance criteria,
Mm-hmm.
it covers a spectrum of different things,
Correct.
right? It covers what happens if you do it. And one thing which is very important for us just to understand as a business analyst is
Mm-hmm.
how is it helping the user? Is
Mm.
it giving them the right indication or not?
Okay.
If you just put a validation rule and does not put a validation error,
Mm-hmm.
it is very difficult for a user to understand that what is going on,
Correct.
right? So it is always better to have every angle of it uh,
Yeah.
put into the system, and mostly I trust in this particular part that always build the system from the user perspective.
Correct.
That if
Correct.
you are the user, are you going to be happy with what you see in the
Yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
Are you, is it going to help you at the end of the day or not? So
Correct.
now, if you look at this angle, right, if you have not included that input values has to be from this range,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody puts 50 and then comes to an error message,
Yeah.
it just takes a lot of time, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
instead of getting to the second step and then putting the validation, you're defining that as part of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Only this ranges should be acceptable. So that
Correct.
user doesn't go to the next screen
Mm,
altogether.
mm, mm, mm. True.
So
True.
this user story, of course, is a small chunk
Mm.
because we don't have a bigger feature out here.
Correct.
Maybe very difficult to understand, but what we're trying to implicate or imply from this is how do you write
Correct.
a user story? What are the different angles that you can cover in a user story? And what is the format that you can follow for a
Mm,
user
mm, mm,
story?
mm.
And as I said in the first part of the phase, experience is what is going to
Correct.
make you
Yeah. Yeah.
good have a good user story or
Yeah.
have good perspective of crafting a user story in
Yeah.
general. So I know this was at a very high level, but I hope this helps everyone who is listening to this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really helpful. The only reason is, and why I can say this confidently, I am myself a quality analyst with manual and automation experience, and
Mm.
when I see a user story, the pointers that you just mentioned, I always question, okay, why did the BA not mention the persona? Or why was this particular value not added? But now when you talk about it, when you talk about the challenges, I understand even a couple of times even the folks from BA want to do it, but they do not have the vital information, number one. uh,
Yeah.
Number two, I think this particular quick session we had around what makes a user story great, this session will be very helpful for any IT professional, be it a BA, be it a developer, or be it a QA or a product owner or a scrum master. The reason being, I
Mm.
think, apart from the pointers that you mentioned, of course, there are technical things that have to be followed, but what makes a user story great is a collaboration for everyone. So if as a QA, I feel that,
Absolutely.
you know what, I think this is missing. So instead of first of all, I should know what makes it good. So, I have this information. And then this has to be communicated in the right manner. Instead of just pinpointing to others, you have to understand each other's situations. So I think this particular session on what makes the user story great can be helpful to any IT professional for that matter. So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And this is what I think I mostly agree, argue in my projects as well. Whenever
Yeah.
somebody comes up, and this is what expectation I set with everyone on my
Hmm,
team
hmm, hmm,
that
hmm.
we are doing the best.
Correct,
We
correct.
from our end we are doing the best, but we understand and we very well know that our user story will not have everything because we are also not God.
Yeah.
We don't know everything.
True,
There are
true.
angles that you uncover when you
Yeah,
develop while you
yeah.
get sign offs. So let it be a collaborative effort. We are working as a team. If
Hmm.
you find something missing, let us know. And for
Yeah,
that to be known, the story has to pass through different phases
correct.
for us
That's
to
right. Yeah.
understand that this is what should have been included for it to make better.
True,
So.
True,
Yeah,
true. I think this was quite insightful, Kiran, and thank you for being here. And for folks who are watching this, if you are interested into learning business analysis from the scratch, of course, this video was more for the folks who already are working as business analysts. So, sort of how you can improve your user story. But we're going to come up with the BA bootcamp wherein we start from the scratch and go up to the end or the advanced level. So if you're interested, please stay tuned. Most probably we're going to start from next week if all goes well. So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like the content, do share and subscribe our channel. And feel free to reach out to Kiran if you need any help. I think she'll be more than happy to help. So thank you so much, Kiran, and definitely we'll be coming up with more interactive sessions around business analysis. Thank you.
definitely. Thank you so much.